obviously, for good reason, we've talked a lot about Tyron Smith's injury and the offensive line depth and everything like that. But on the flip side, are there spots on the team where you're like, you know what? I feel better about this now than I did when we started the offseason.
Oh, man, this is...
I have one.
All right.
I hope it plays out this way because there's also the unknown because it's preseason and practice. I feel better about defensive end.
That's one of the two.
Why? Because I think a lot of people feel that way, Mike. But what's your reason?
I don't even know how many snaps he's going to get, but it seems like Sam Williams has something there in that he can get pressure on the quarterback. I mean, we didn't really see much Dorrance Armstrong in preseason, but I just feel like we have depth there to run waves of, hey, we don't have anybody great, but we're going to be running waves at you of kind of 5 defensive ends that can cause pressure on the quarterback.
I'll add to this, Mike, I think because the addition of Anthony Barr makes me feel really good about moving Micah anywhere I want now. Like, it just makes me go, okay, if I want to put pressure on the quarterback and I want to do it in a different way, I can blitz with him. Or I can just line him up out there. I can move all sorts of... This is the fun thing that Dan Quinn gets to do. Like, I think Dan Quinn is excited that he gets to draw up all these different options and say, will this work? This is very much like, trying to find the right 5 for your final 5 minutes in the NBA. What is the right mix that I can get the maximum amount of pressure on the quarterback to force him to give it to one of my cornerbacks out there? Because my cornerbacks are ready. They're ball hawking right now. Anthony Brown can't wait. This year's going to be awesome. So the ability to say, okay, Sam Williams, you're out there and you can do this here. DeMarcus Lawrence, you're doing your thing. You got all these different varieties. Fowler, I'm very excited about what he can do if he can stay, right in there in the middle of his emotions sometimes. But then the ability to say, I can do whatever I want with Micah Parsons, because I didn't just say Leighton Vander Esch is going to be fine. Anthony Barr is now out there, and it makes me feel like I can put a lot of different looks in their face, and that's something that's really exciting. And I think Anthony Barr can be a great playmaker for you too.
Okay, and so I just said defensive line on the whole, since everything we heard about in training camp was, well, who are you going to cut? Who are you going to cut? Like,
and they couldn't cut anybody.
Yeah, and just think about how weird it was that, like, it felt like an odd live or die situation if you were going to move on from Carlos Watkins. Like, that is not, like, normally, and it wasn't because, well, you can't move on from Carlos Watkins because then nobody will be able to play defensive line. It was, I don't know, man. We got so many good players that we're...
Are you surprised that nobody picked up any of our defensive cuts?
I was. I absolutely was. And so I still remain encouraged about the defensive line in general, because some of the people that they held when they went heavy on the defensive line is because they thought those players would get cut. And that is not usually a world that we live in. It's kind of like when the Rangers are like, they can just let go of whatever starting pitcher and everyone will be like, yeah, I don't care. And so when you see what is usually a weakness become maybe a strength, is encouraging to me.
I'm not necessarily surprised, Mike, about that. Just because the names, none of them really, like, I didn't think they were going to make this team. I was surprised they kept as many defensive linemen as they did. I was surprised they kept a lot of even some of their linebackers. I was like, whoa, hold on. So I was more surprised they kept that many. But again, what they're doing with their roster allows them to keep a few extra. So I wasn't as surprised that nobody got picked up, except for maybe Watkins. That might be the one where I was like, somebody needs a defensive tackle.
Now, from the 2-1-4, absolutely, I feel better about the linebacking core. We have Leighton Vander Esch, and if he gets anything back like he was rookie year, I would even argue in the last, 6 or so games of last year, then Parsons, and then you mentioned Barr, and still have hope for Jabril Cox. So linebacker's another spot.
I saw a play where Barr didn't quite read it as fast as I wanted him to. This is preseason, obviously.
Yeah.
He didn't quite read it as fast as I wanted him to, but he had the athletic ability to get to the spot just in time to make the play not happen. And that's where I was like, okay, all right, we're going to be just fine. Except for, obviously, I want him to be quicker on some of his reads, and he will. That was first game in the preseason. I think he will, but he's got the athletic ability to stick with it. And so that's where I'm feeling really confident again because, man, Micah's the wild card now. You have no clue, like, what's he going to do? But you have to walk up as a quarterback and go, where is he? First thing you have to do is identify where he is and go, is he coming from that direction? Or is there somebody who is coming at me right now?
From the 469, somebody said safety. And the fascinating thing about that is, so
name them.
Well, I mean, you had DeMonte KZ and Keanu Neal last year, and now Malik Hooker. And I feel like you feel
Mr. Aggie.
Yeah, Wilson.
Yeah.
Dude,
Look,
he's crazy. I love him.
And I'm still hoping we see like a whole season from him where we feel good about that, because I feel like he's had the hype award like 2 or 3 years, and I'm hoping to see that translate.
Who was that safety that I was in love with but never played a game?
Is it Matt Johnson?
Matt Johnson. Yeah,
he played on a red field.
Far superior to Matt Johnson.
And so the thing that's encouraging about that to me is whether it's us or the fan texters, we've already heard defensive end, defensive line, linebacker, and safety. This was a really good defense last year. And you have people across the Metroplex and in this studio listing pretty much every single level of the defense is potentially being better.
Has anybody listed one offensive position?
No, but I'm going to pitch. I'm going to pitch one for you.
All right,
pitch
it.
I think that's fair.
But before we get there,
Okay.
I did want to address safety real
up
quick.
by 4, yeah.
Nice, good job, Mike.
Already?
Yeah, with
weren't
2
they
minutes.
just down by 6?
With 2 minutes to go. That's,
Went on a nice 7-0 run.
Luka magic.
Yeah, at the safety position, you may not have what is considered nationally a top 5 safety. You may not have a top 10 safety out of the guys that you do have. But by the end of this year, I think people will go, oh, man, Curse did it again.
Yeah.
And that's where I think you get it was a fluke last year. Well, if he does it again, or Mukwamu, if he's that guy, you have lots of really good options. And I think it's still more of but is Malik Hooker going to make it through a season healthy? But I think the talent, the level of play is going to benefit this team a lot.
On the offensive end, would you think it was crazy if I said tight end?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not. And I think you might get most of your production from tight end this year.
Okay. And I know there's already people who are like, hey, Dalton Schultz, that's your fantasy option.
That's fine.
For the Dallas
That's fine.
Cowboys.
If you're in a PPR league, man, he's going to give you plenty of catches to go with the numbers. He might get a touchdown here and there. Like that'll be something beneficial to you. But I think if the Cowboys are going to be successful offensively, they can pick up the short yardage stuff and some big stuff using other tight ends, not necessarily just Schultz, but he could have a big season for sure.
And I think the potential awesomeness for a lot of Cowboys will be what you see from Jake Ferguson, 4th rounder, Peyton Hendershot, one of the 4 undrafted free agents to make the initial 53 is, don't you get the sense that a lot of Cowboys fans are hoping somehow, some way, you see enough from one of those two or both of those two that they don't give Dalton Schultz a long-term deal?
Yes, I agree. Yes. I just wonder about the tight ends in this, Kevin, is how much they can impact. How many seconds are they going to have to help our offensive tackles until they can actually go out into a route? And I get Dalton Schultz. You're probably going to say, you can't help. We need you to help us out because you're our second best catching option to start this playoff.
Yeah. And a poor blocker.
Yeah, and a poor blocker. But for Ferguson or Hendershot or whoever else is on the field for a play, I have this feeling that they're not really going to get to run their route immediately from the snap of the ball. They're going to have to give a second of help, and then after a second, then they can release to then be more of just an outlet guy than I'm running route type of guy.
And I am curious how much 2 tight end packages are built into this offense, and how frequent we see that, and how much it benefits, because he might be right. You might have to have that guy out there so that you can have a guy to run around. There might be a lot of different things that they have to do to protect it. Or we do find out that Tyler is ready to play in the left tackle in the NFL right now, and we don't have to worry about that right now.